the #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to episode 211 of Costa Rica Real Estate and Investments with me, your host, Richard Bexon. Today, we're going to be talking with Jake Alexander. Many of you have worked with him or know of him. He's an investment specialist here in our office at Costa Rica Investments, but I thought good to have kind of like an open and free-flowing discussion with Jake and I about kind of, where people go wrong in investing in Costa Rica and really the pitfalls and things to look out to. I know a lot of people are looking to invest in Costa Rica, and I think as we're starting to see a bit of a turn in the market, I think it's really important that as investors or people looking to buy real estate in Costa Rica, you're just informed of the questions to ask and things to be aware of, and where projects and investments can go wrong here. So today we're going to be talking to Jake about that. Remember, if you guys are looking to invest in Costa Rica as well, or would like help with project management or developing here, feel free to reach out to us, info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. You can also contact us by down in the description down below is a link for a free 15-minute consultation, or you can go to our website, investingcostarica.com. But let's go straight into the podcast, guys. Good morning, Jake. How are you doing?
Good morning, Richard. I'm doing great. Thanks. Thanks for having me. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good, man. Good. It feels weird kind of interviewing you, even though we kind of, speak every day. But I know you're in North America at the moment, but your home base is in Manuel Antonio. But I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can kind of hear it in my voice after my sister's wedding this weekend. A lot of singing.
Well, I'm sure it was. I'm sure a few YMCA songs and other things like that were played. Because I don't know if it's the same in the US, but in the UK, every single wedding has the YMCA.
Yeah, it was there, and I think the DJ just kept playing banger after banger. So definitely a fun way to end the night.
Good times. Awesome. Well, I mean, the first question I love to ask everyone, as markets have had a good start to 2024. I mean, today, actually, I said this today because we're recording this, in August. Markets are, I would say, heavily dropping at the moment, whether that's a correction or recession happening. But what are you seeing happening here in Costa Rica at the moment, Jake?
Yeah, I think pretty similar. It's definitely not. Things aren't flying off the shelf, and it seems that prices are coming down. And whether that's, like you said, a correction, a recession, I'm leaning more towards a correction.
Yeah.
For the things that are in Costa Rica, and things are still selling, but it's definitely not flying off the press.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Look, I think every market is different, of course. I mean, I'm going to take markets, like Playa Grande, okay, and Tamarindo. We have not really seen much price corrections there, especially in land. In homes, maybe a little bit, but not so much. But it's a demand and supply thing. There's a lot of demand in those areas and not tons of supply. Whereas I think in areas like, I don't know, Uvita or Okachao, we're seeing a little bit of a price corrections in those, maybe in like Potrero, Flamingo, where stuff was a little overpriced, overinflated comparatively to some areas. I definitely see we're seeing some corrections.
Yeah, and even you mentioned Uvita from a investment rental standpoint. There's tons of competition that's popped up over the past year. I think the last time we looked at the data, there was a 42% increase in available rental properties. And with the demand for rentals not on par with that, I think that's also leading to some correction and availability in the market as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Look, some areas have seen a glut of new rentals where the demand is kind of waning a little bit. But there are still areas, I mean, as you know, dude, I mean, we look at a lot of data ourselves, both from the tourism data. We also have some insider data there and also vacation rental data of just seeing of where that demand is, where there hasn't been, as you mentioned, there a 42% increase, and it's just, there is opportunity out there. I mean, there was something, I had a client the other day was like, hey, how much do I offer for this piece of land? And I was like, look, I think in order to get the land, you need to offer this. I understand that the market's kind of correcting a little bit, but you can't think about that. You have to think about your whole project and getting it moving and the cash flow that it's going to produce, because getting your land for $10,000 cheaper, is okay, but you might miss the mark, if that makes sense. So sometimes it's better to just be like, look, pay the asking price or the price that we know can get the deal done so we can get moving with your project, because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't have that much of a huge impact.
Yeah, saving a minuscule amount like that, especially when you're building a project that's going to be for cash flowing.
Yeah.
Just get it, secure it, be done with it. We ran into that on two pieces of property a couple months ago where we
Yep.
tried to save, I don't know, $5,000 and then it was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially in high demand areas. But well, a weird question to ask you, because I don't think I've ever asked it before. But like, what's the stupidest investment you've ever seen in Costa Rica?
The first one that pops into my head is that property in Avellanas that has four houses on it that isn't divided up into ownership,
Yep.
and trying to buy one of those. Um, but the thing with that is it's also, buyer beware. If
Yep.
you're unaware of the situation there, it looks like it could be a great deal. And that I think that one really just kind of pops off immediately, just the way it's structured there with the four houses on one plano.
And you
Unless you're
own.
buying the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. You don't, I mean, you basically, if I'm correct, that one was like a corporation that owns the land. There is no separate planner for each property, meaning you own a share, like a quarter of a share in a company that owns that property. And I think it had sat there. I actually saw it price reduced again today, even further. But like that one's going to be difficult to sell because there is no like title. There is no clean title. Like you're a shareholder in a corporation with other people, meaning that like now you have the complexity of those other people. And yeah, it's just not clear cut.
No, like and it's not even like, I mean, yeah, sure, you could go and buy the whole thing, but there's only one out of the four for sale.
Yep.
So then that gets complicated. And,
Yeah.
if you had the whole thing and you wanted to do a project with it, I think it could be a great, short-term rental community if you own everything. But trying to do one of them, there's so much better options out there
Yeah.
that it's a pretty stupid one.
What other one you got? You said that you had, that was like the one that jumped out. Any others that have jumped out to you?
That's definitely the biggest one. And I think another one could just be like people that buy land without checking to make sure that, doing the proper due diligence, that there is water on it or the setbacks.
Yep.
The other one that pops out, there's that piece of property outside of Tamarindo that has like the river running right through the middle of it
Yep.
that is always for sale.
Yep.
And same thing, like what can you really do with it?
Yeah.
But people keep buying it. So why? Well, because they don't know, they don't check, and it's kind of stupid.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I mean, this is like just general in Costa Rica. You have to trust but verify kind of everything. And there's a lot that you don't know. And I can understand how a lot of people get burnt in Costa Rica. Just even river setbacks, because, I mean, recently had a friend who, Jake Casey, put an offer on a piece of land. We did the due diligence, but I was like, dude, before we spend anything, there's a river on it. Let me get you the setback. And I knew if that setback came at 50 meters either side, it would eat into a lot of the best plantails on the property. And it did come back at 50 meters. And the chance of us getting it reduced to 15 was so small that I was like, I think you need to pass on this piece of land. And it was a beautiful piece of land, just that, like, again, 100 meters wide by, I think, probably like, another 100 meters. So 1 hectare of the 7 hectares was nothing you could do anything with.
Yeah. And I don't know how much it was, but whatever it was, like you can find something else.
Yeah.
That you're not going to have to deal with those kind of headaches.
Correct. But that being said, though, Jake, we had another client that we helped to end up buying, a piece of land with those river setbacks. And there's always a way around it as long as you're aware of it. I think where the problem comes is you were intending on doing your project or have designed it around something and then realize everything's in the setbacks. Whereas I think if you could, on that one, we drew the actual map because there was a creek and a river going through it. The client ended up buying it because we were able to kind of design their project around that. And thank God that like the main plantel where it was the pad, was there. And again, they walked up the river this week and was like, it's beautiful. Like that setback can actually be a positive for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, you got to be flexible and get your homework done first before you start doing any sort of design, because then you start going down that rabbit hole and you get the perfect house that you dreamed of, and the location, you can see yourself standing there on your land with this certain view, and then you realize with the setbacks that it's going to be completely different. All that work you did in the design process is going to get changed. The view is going to be different, and you're already so far into it that it's now like upsetting as you're moving forward and deciding what you're going to do.
Yeah. I think it's, get a great team on your project, guys. I think that's what it comes down to. Now, I mean, there are many new projects in Costa Rica, Jake. We constantly keep seeing them kind of pop up. And I'm always asked, hey, Rich, what do you think of this project? And, that one's always a tough one, man. But I think I've been here in Costa Rica enough that like my spider senses go off on some projects and they don't on the other. But like, how do you determine which ones are the good ones or which ones are the bad ones, Jake?
So, I like to see how far along they are.
Yep.
What kind of infrastructure is in place? What's the legal structure? Are there separate planos?
Yep.
And if you've like made it that far, you're at least going in the right direction. And then just look at who's developing them. Are these people that have a history of development in general? Have they already developed things in Costa Rica?
Yep.
Or, are they coming from a completely different industry, have no idea about development in Costa Rica, but just have a bunch of cash and hope that it's going to go the way that they would like it to?
Yeah. I mean, I think you mentioned a great point there, is that like, I think any serious project should have the money behind it to put in the infrastructure and to separate the lots. It should not be a, hey, invest $500,000 and when it's subdivided, then you'll get like this founders kind of lot, etc. I mean, that's very risky. So much can go wrong. And I mean, I've seen it in so many places, even in Santa Teresa, where a development group there has been trying to get a condominium development for many years and just can't get it. Like, it's so much can go wrong. All it takes is a turn in the market and like, projects die.
Yeah. And then, I mean, good luck getting your money back.
Well, yeah,
Depending on where it's held. If it's where it is, like you're not taking someone to court here.
I mean, you can,
but
it just takes years. You'll spend probably
Yeah.
more money in legal fees than you would do the amount that you put it in there. So
Yeah. I think, you can wait.
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
really the advantage of getting in that early.
Yeah, it might be 10%.
There's other opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think as you said there, a good project is one that, has all of its infrastructure in place, or that, is willing to only take a small deposit in order for, until we have all these things done. That's when you know that they're good developers. When they're asking for all the money up front, I mean, literally they're going to take your money and use it for infrastructure. Whereas I think any decent developer or any decent project in Costa Rica should have the cash to start it and get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, my question for you: which areas of Costa Rica would you not be investing in at the moment, and why?
So strictly from an investment standpoint, places that are set away from the beach.
Yep.
For example, like Villarreal and outside of Tamarindo, it's a little too far. And other than that, I really wouldn't go south of Okachao. I think there's some great opportunities in Okachao.
Yeah.
But, further south than that, at least now, we'll see how things could look 10 years down the road. But, I'd say between Okachao and Manuel Antonio, and then Hermosa to Herradura will be good. But then that kind of no man's land between Manuel Antonio and Hermosa, I really wouldn't do anything there. There's stuff there, but there's so much better opportunity north and south. And and then those smaller towns that are a 15-20 minute drive, to get to the more populous area, yeah, you can find things that are less expensive, but if you're looking at it from an investment standpoint and you want to get returns on either a house that's there or building a house,
Yeah.
you could go closer to the beach, further north or south, and find something that's within your budget and is going to perform better, especially, in the long run, as we see things move out of those tourist hubs. They go north and south. They don't go inland.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way to think about this is markets expand and contract. Now, we've been on an expansion, post-pandemic, and also real estate in areas in Costa Rica have expanded out of those main areas. If things contract, or as they begin to contract, they're going to go contract around those main areas. So if investment is the only driver, then you need to be in those core areas. I think if there's a lifestyle element to it of like, hey, we want a place to stay and also rent, then I think that that's a different scenario. But I mean, we were just talking here about investing. So, if you were like, hey, Rich, Portalon, which is between Manuel Antonio and Dominicao, I'd probably say, dude, I'd walk away from it just because it's not a key location. No one's searching it. There's not really that many. There's nothing major hotel there. Like, it's not a location.
Yeah.
But also there are locations like Santa Teresa, dude. I personally at the moment am not looking. I think it's way overpriced. Stuff that's way overpriced, I would probably not be looking at. But also is that the vacation rental data tells me there also is that, like, again, as you mentioned there, in Uvita 42%, Santa Teresa has seen a huge boom, over the past couple of years. Yes, infrastructure is getting better, but it still has water issues.
Yeah, anywhere with history of water issues, and yeah, there's kind of no man's land in between destinations.
Yeah, I mean, unless your play is that, like, look, I'm going to hold on to a piece of land for 10 years and I don't mind it sitting there. But I personally, like, land banking is difficult unless that's your business and that's what you want to do. I like cash flow. I love to find land that you can put something on and then you can cash flow it.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think the safest things to invest in Costa Rica are?
The safest things from an investment standpoint, things that are, like you said, close to those tourist hubs. So whether it is, there's still like 2 condos in Memo Antonio for sale that I think are great options.
Yeah.
They have good historical cash flow, middle of Memo Antonio for under $400,000.
Yeah.
Even, land in Memo Antonio.
Like, it's just not that much of it.
It's a big tourist hub. Similar things in, I think there's good opportunity as well as it's pretty safe would be like Avellanas.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see how much more development continues to be there. But, if you go buy land there, I don't think you're going to lose. So I think that's another good one. And even up in Fortuna, especially when we look at it from the data standpoint, you have the major hotels up there. When I was working at the travel agency, and I'm pretty sure the data is still pretty similar.
Yep.
A vast majority of the trips are La Fortuna and then a beach area.
Yeah.
There's always people going there.
Yeah, I was actually on a call the other week with some of the owners of some luxury hotels in Aranel, and they were mentioning that there aren't that many luxury vacation rentals. I was like, wait, guys, because we've got a project that we're working on at the moment. So yeah, that could be an interesting one. But I mean, I think safe stuff, as you mentioned, there is like, look, if you just want an easy go, safe investment, just buy a condo or buy a home in the main tourist areas. Again, I think it just comes down to what do you want. I think if it's investing, you got to look at it from a cash flow point of view. I don't think you can focus on how much your asset's going to appreciate because you don't know what that's going to happen. So you just have to look at its free cash flow and really take a look and see what those returns are. And, the greatest returns are going to be in areas where there is still high demand and not enough product. And again, I think difficult for people to get that data, but it's what we do. We just analyze data constantly. And I think that's where we potentially have a bit of an advantage over other people is that, we just look at data constantly. Not most people don't.
Yeah, whether it's occupancy, ADR, I think the biggest one of the fluctuations in what is there. And then also what's missing.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, look, we said the other day that I think over the last 60 days, 3,000 new products for sale have come on the market, whether that's land, hotels, or condos. But it's in other areas, it's not really in main tourist destinations. I mean, it has come online in like Potrero, Las Catalinas area, but I think, we're still starting to see price reductions there as well, where there's a glut of product and the demand is just not there. So yeah, it's a really weird combo that you just really need to understand or work with people that can clearly understand it. And that's one of my next questions for you is, a lot of trust is put in realtors, real estate agents representing buyers here. I mean, what do you think buyers need to understand when working with realtors and real estate agents?
Yeah, so I think a big thing that buyers need to understand is that you're going into an unregulated industry where, yes, as I mentioned before, you can take someone to court, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to take years. There are tons of good people here.
Yep.
But just like everywhere, like there are people who aren't.
Yep.
So, trust your gut. If you get a bad feeling about something, well, like look into it, verify it. Like we were talking about the water before, that's a big thing that comes up. And if they're brushing it under the rug, like it's not a big deal, well, just make sure that it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And find someone that, that you trust to do right by you.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just said it there of like, it's an unregulated market and it's trying to be regulated, but I don't see it regulating itself very, very soon. It's a trust but verify environment in Costa Rica. You just need to have a great team as well. And just understand of like a lot of people are making money based on you buying, and that includes the real estate agent, the realtors, and also the lawyers as well. Like the lawyers have a fiduciary duty, but it's just to check stuff. It's not to go deeper into certain stuff, if that makes sense. And if they don't have the context of your project and what's required for that. But as we said, like there are good apples and bad apples everywhere, man. You just need to really check references and double check everything. As I always say, us personally, we're a realtor's like worst nightmare from the point of view of like, we just check everything, dot I's, cross T's are a pain. But at the end of the day, we just want to make sure is that like the only thing we have is our reputation. So that needs to be protected. But yeah, it's a trust but verify environment here. And as you said, you can't take someone to court. I mean, you can, but it's like caveat emptor, buyer beware always, because once you buy, there's not that much recourse.
Yeah. Like, for example, they'll tell you that the property has a water letter, but maybe they don't understand the scope of the project that you want to do. And the water letter you have isn't going to be sufficient for it. And it's not even them being malicious. It's just not understanding and verifying what exactly you want to do with what is available to you.
Yeah. I mean, my last question for you, Jake, because I've kept you long enough. If you inherited $500,000 and you had to invest it into a business or real estate in Costa Rica, what would you invest it in and why?
So I would probably invest in either land or a house in one of those big tourist hubs, Fortuna, Memo Antonio, or Tamarindo area, Playa del Coco, maybe even too.
Yep.
Or from a business standpoint, like I would love a touchless car wash.
Wow.
Instead of having to wait. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like super expensive to go to the car wash, but full detail inside and out. It's about $7 million in Memo Antonio, so $15.
Yeah.
But it takes them an hour to do it. And you're like sitting there next to the mangroves getting eaten alive by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Or, you get a couple of these touchless machines, line them up, and you just swipe your card, drive in and out, and have a couple of vacuums outside to do the inside. I think you could do a lot with $500K.
Yeah.
For for the car wash.
If I made you choose a location to invest $500,000, which one would you invest in and why?
For real estate?
Yeah.
I'd stick with Memo Antonio.
That's a market
I live
though,
there.
Right?
Yeah, I know it. I live there. I love it. And there's less and less that's becoming available, especially from a land standpoint.
Yep.
So I'd probably try to find some land, and depending on how much it costs, sit on it or build something on it.
Cool. Well, Jake, I really appreciate your time for coming on the podcast. As I said, it's kind of weird to be interviewing you, as we talk quite often. But look, I mean, you have a very different perspective than I on some stuff. We have a lot of perspectives on the same. We see a bunch of different stuff. You're constantly out on the out on the street, as I like to say. So am I. We talk to similar people and very different people. So I think it's always great to get another opinion and viewpoint. But I think anyone that wants to reach out to Jake or schedule a meeting with him, all of his contact details are in the description down below. But Jake, very much appreciate you taking time to come on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm sure I'll be talking to you later today.
Sounds good. Catch you later.
See ya.
Bye. Interesting podcast there with Jake Alexander, guys. I mean, I think that as markets do start to contract a little bit and we do see a bit of price correction, there's going to be a lot of opportunity in that. I'm personally investing myself at the moment heavily. I'm buying some land in Arenal. I'm buying some more land in Manuel Antonio at the moment. It's I think the saying, what was it that Warren Buffett said, is be greedy when others are scared, and be scared when other people are being greedy. So I'm sure it went something like that anyway. But I hope you enjoyed that podcast there with Jake. I think, again, just the general consensus here in Costa Rica is, just take your time. Don't rush into anything. Trust your spider senses, as I like to say, which I suppose could be your gut, and just make sure you have a great team within the project. Mistakes do get made here in Costa Rica. And I think anyone that just wants a piece of advice or to chat with us can do. You can email us info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. Or again, in the description down below there, you can actually just coordinate a time to actually chat with either Jake or myself there. And we're more than happy to take a look at any investment that you're doing here in Costa Rica and just give you our 2 cents for what it's worth. Again, it's just our perception. You just need to trust but verify everything here in Costa Rica. So I hope you're enjoying the podcast, guys. If you are, please give us a 5 stars, thumbs up. I saw a great review come through the other day. I love reading them. It motivates me to keep doing them and just get the perspective after over 200 episodes here and over 250,000 downloads here, to just kind of just see and understand and hear what people are actually thinking. So I appreciate it. Until the next podcast, we'll catch you soon. Bye.
The #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.